Good morning, it's 7:15. Woke up late today. -8 degrees. Last night, during the Christmas dinner, conversation of interest to me was my niece's car broke down in the Atwater Tunnel just before the highway, and she was forced to use the 4141 towing company, which has the monopoly, because they considered this the highway. Either way, to make a long story short, is that Pounds don't have a right to charge you ahead of time to release the vehicle, be it a vehicle or a dog. Same laws apply. If you are forced to pay for your items return, that is theft under the criminal code. End of the line. We've laid criminal charges on the SPCA. To avoid the charges, obviously, the SPCA surrendered the dogs. And the same laws apply to a towing company. So, it's not easy to deal with the issue at hand. They might legally be allowed to keep your car impounded for maybe 24 hours. That could be somehow a little loophole in the law. But they're not allowed to charge you for the retrieval of your vehicle, because that is theft. They have to give you an IOU. I'm not saying you don't have to pay for the retrieval of your vehicle. You will have to pay for it in the long run, but it's called an IOU. That's how a monopoly works. I said my niece, but I meant my cousin. Now, people need to learn this stuff, because some lady brings us a dog. This was a few months back from Laval. It's an emergency. She has to get rid of this dog immediately. So she arrives from the 40 on the other side of the St. Lawrence, and there's no bridge to cross. The only way to cross is using the ferry boat. Her alternator dies on the ferry boat, and to call a towing, she needs to wait. So she has to be on the ferry, and the ferry goes back and forth, I think once or twice, until the towing arrives, so she can get towed to the garage and sleep in her car for the night, because she needs to get her car fixed next morning. Ironically, the same thing happened to me and Sophie. We take the Kings Road down memory lane, if you want to call it that, and the alternator dies on us on the ferry boat. Sophie automatically calls Canadian Tire roadside assistant. I tell her, you're not on the roadside. But anyways, they're confused. They don't know. And they forward her to somebody who's local, but he's having dinner. Forget about it. He's not getting out of dinner to tow Sophie off the ferry boat. So I remind Sophie, it doesn't matter. Right now, the company, you're on a company ship. Company is liable to get you off this ship. It's their problem right now, because not anybody can come and tow you off this ship. Turns out I'm correct, of course. They come out with a booster pack, boost the battery, we drive off the ferry boat. Huh. Ain't that ironic? However, because of the cars now always full of electronics, without the alternator and a dead battery, the fuel pump won't pump fuel, so we didn't make it home. We made it about halfway home. Then we had to call the local towing company, who could now assist us on the roadside and tow us home. Now we need a new alternator on the Toyota. Purchased a battery charger, charged the battery for 24 hours. Now it's fine. We can actually drive the car around, but it's got no alternator. So, that's the problem with technology. Of course, the luck continues. The next day we take the Volkswagen, and while we're idling at the vet to get, I believe it was dynamite, the battery light flashes on the dashboard. That's a telltale sign that the alternator is screwing up the same way. So we restart the car, and the alternator light, battery light, doesn't turn back on. So we end up driving the car to Montreal, and it was a faulty fuel pump. So we changed the fuel pump, and now everything's running smoothly. Now this is what I figured out and comprehend, is that we have this bad habit of charging both cell phones at the same time through the lighter socket. That's 12 volts. I'm using a USB-C charger. Sophie's using the old school USB charger, quick charge, with a quick charge adapter. So either we're draining the battery too fast, or we're creating some kind of overcharge, because the car might be running for about 8 hours straight as we drive around. And the overcharge can actually drain the battery if it overcharges. So which one is it? Are we draining the battery too fast because we're draining too much power? Or are we overcharging the battery, causing it to drain faster? Both possibilities are plausible. So about 3 years ago, I stopped smoking cigarettes. But a year ago, I started vaping again. I started smoking again. But after about 3 months, I stopped smoking and I started vaping again. And I was buying these throwaway ones, which is not very green. So for Christmas, I pulled out my old vape and I got some new liquids. Now they have new flavors that have a lot of changes in the last 3 years. And I had stopped vaping because when I went to Témiscamingue for the weekend, I ran out of juice. And then when I went to Coucouamville, I figured I'm not gonna bring my vape, so instead I brought some cigarettes with me. I brought about 2 cartons with me. And ever since then, I kind of started smoking again. So that's that. I figure nicotine right now is a good stimulant, and I need the stimulant. Just like marijuana is good for migraines, it is what it is. So tonight, for the first time, I'm trying out Bailey's and hot chocolate. Turns out to be real good.